Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Wondergoal, the soccer betting podcast from the Action Network. My name is Michael Leboff, and joining me for another handicapping adventure are Anthony DeBundo and BJ Cunningham. Together, the three of us will take you through all 10 matches upcoming Super Bowl weekend in the Premier League. We'll talk the rest of Europe too, Bundesliga, LaLiga, Serie, all that fun stuff. We'll wrap up the show with our favorite underdogs, tell you what the Underdog Parlay is, 3 legs. I think it's around 62 to 1. I'll have to calculate the prices as we go here and then give our best bets for the upcoming Premier League slate over this weekend. The only football that matters in my mind this weekend is the football in Europe. And just a reminder, Champions League returns.
And AFCON, obviously.
AFCON, yeah, that's true. Champions League also returns for the knockout stages on the 13th of February, so we'll be back in your ears on Monday morning previewing that slate. We'll give some big picture betting takeaways for the knockout rounds, but let's get into this Premier League slate here. We'll start with a 7:30 a.m. kickoff between, it's a title race 6-pointer, if you ask me. City minus 550 at home, Everton traveling at 12 to 1. Draw here 7 to 1. Everton's been pretty good against City under Pep Guardiola, even when they were managed by Frank Lampard. They were finding ways to get points and probably deserve better results in City over their past few stretches. Some bad VAR decisions, etc., have gone against them. Who knew? Everton are the only team without a penalty this year, by the way, in the Premier League.
Truly wild.
Yeah.
Congrats to Bournemouth on finally getting one.
Yeah. Congrats to Bournemouth.
And I think I believe it's Chelsea or Liverpool have the most right now.
Weird, right?
That's weird.
The Islanders are the only team in the NHL without an empty net goal too. So just been strange. They're
doing
fun for you.
I think, yeah, a lot of fun. We got Patrick Waugh, so I'm excited. I think that there's a way to bet this match and have a lot of fun without playing the Everton money line. It's a little scary because of like just how thin the squad is, and even against Spurs, like they just seem dead on their feet for the last few minutes, and they do tie that match up, and I thought they played it pretty well. They played that match all right, but I'm gonna play either Everton first half money line or maybe take a shot on an 18 to 1 of Everton first half, City full time, because I do think that there is an opportunity here for Everton to maybe score first, whatever. That's the way I would attack it, but I just don't think they'll be able to hang with City throughout the full 90. And we just saw that with City, BJ, their last game when Phil Foden ran away with it. So that's what I'm looking at here. Anything for you, Everton and City?
Yeah, I have a couple bets. I like Everton +2, minus 110, and I like both teams to score, which you can get at +105. I know Everton for stretches against Tottenham didn't look that great. There was, kind of an uncharacteristic defensive lapse right at the beginning of the match that allowed Richarlison to tap one home. But outside of that tap-in, Tottenham really didn't create much after that went in. I mean, they only got one expected goal in total for the match. That shot had an XG rating of 0.52. And it comes down to what, we've been talking about a lot over the course of the season is that Everton is an elite team out of possession because of their ability to not only defend in a low block, a mid block, which they were very, very active and effective with it, forcing the ball out wide against Tottenham. But also, when they fell behind, they also have the ability to press high and cause a lot of problems. Everton is number 1 now in the Premier League in high turnovers forced. Like, that is, in and of itself, for a team that has historically been a mid to low block, is pretty remarkable. Just kind of goes to show you how good they are in playing both of them. They've also allowed the fewest big scoring chances of anybody in the Premier League. So I think this is City being vastly overvalued. Everybody's obviously back for City, so I think everybody's just kind of penciling them in as already winning the title because they have De Bruyne back. Haaland is now healthy. I'm not so sure, especially given this price. I mean, City, they haven't really been blowing everybody out like they have been in the past, and I get it. De Bruyne has been out for half the season, but they've only won 3 Premier League matches by more than 2 goals. And Everton, by my ratings, is the 9th or 10th best team in the Premier League. So for them to be laying 2 full goals against them. I know it's at home and everybody's healthy, but this is really high for City. I mean, even in the previous meeting, they had a penalty. They scored from outside the box and eventually created 2.4 expected goals. But 22 non-penalty shots, 1.6 non-penalty expected goals without a big scoring chance. Like, it really wasn't that dominant of a performance from City. So I like Everton +2. I think that City is vastly overvalued. I think this should be a flat -1.5. And I like both teams to score as well, because I think Everton is very dangerous on the counter, and City has shown some vulnerabilities defending in transition.
Yeah, I largely agree about at least part of it, right? My number on this, I'm pretty low relative to the market on the City attack, but I think I'm just missing on, the fact that everybody's back. Because if they're going to play Foden, Alvarez, Silva, KDB, and Haaland, like, good luck. I don't care who the defense is. Good luck. And that's just reality. Like, the market's inflating them here, and I agree with that. But Brentford was able to get at this defense, and I think that's something that is a choice that Guardiola's clearly made here, where you saw it in the Newcastle game and you saw it in the game against Brentford, where teams are able to get one-on-one opportunities running at their back line. Teams are able to break through, because remember last year, City didn't really attack with numbers. They kind of kept most of their team back and then just let 3 or 4 attackers cook, because Grealish, Haaland, and De Bruyne were so good that it kind of, and half of Mahrez were good enough to like just wreck teams and win everything. And they were so defensively solid. But this year, at least with the recent lineup, would suggest that Pep is kind of turning up the throttle now. And I think the result of that is, Brentford got 18 touches in the penalty area, City's penalty area. They had a full over 1 XG. And Rodri is like the only real ball stopper in the team. Even Guardiola got into the penalty area for 5+ touches, as did Rodri. So if you're pushing your left back up the pitch, you're pushing 2 midfielders who primaries role, KDB, Foden, Silva, all these guys pushing up. There's nobody left to defend. So I think there's going to be space for Everton on the break. It's not ever pretty with Everton. Like you said, BJ, like, it doesn't ever look like they're playing well, even when they are playing well. And I thought that was evident in the Spurs match. But they're still going to get their chances here if City plays the same lineup, which I expect them to. I mean, there's no reason to not play the lineup that they played against Brentford, in which they go down early, but the game was never really in doubt. Like, Flecken stood on his head in the first half, and then some shots went in, and they ended up getting 5 different players with 3 shots plus. That's insane. And that's, against a Brentford defense that like isn't as good as it usually is, but like still decent. So I think there's going to be major problems for them defending, but I think they get one. So Everton first half team total +230. We're going to run it back. And Everton team total over to a half is -110. Somebody messaged me in the Discord, why didn't you just take the both teams to score? It's essentially the same bet, but there is more of a chance of City getting blanked than the market suggests there, I think. Just like they get soccered. So I took the team total, but like, yeah, if Everton wins 1-0, that would surely be something. But I don't disagree either with what you said, Lieboff, which is just like Everton might get a hot start, maybe get a set piece goal, but it doesn't feel like they have the juice to go the full 90 here to pull this off.
So that's 7:30 a.m. We'll jump ahead to Villa and Man United, try to highlight some of the bigger games off the top here. Villa is +115 at home. United traveling at +210, and the draw here is +275. You know what though? Like, I know it was pretty ho hum against West Ham on over the weekend for United, but I think we should just start looking at this team as they're just kind of box office. They're just no idea how any match is going to unfold. We didn't get to really talk about the game against Wolves because we recorded on Wednesday to look ahead of the weekend, and that game, of course, was just off its rocker. And I feel like United once every few matches plays these insane games, and the last time that they played Villa, that was one of them. Like, they just end up with these insane back and forth kind of comebacks everywhere style. And I think Villa is kind of conducive to that because of the high event soccer they played for most of the season. I don't really hate United here. Like, I don't think that the price is all that bad. to go with our boys here, BJ, your boys, Man United, who are 4 wins, 4 losses, and 2 draws in their last 10 in the Premier League, with a -1 goal differential, 31 total goals, 31 total expected goals. Like, they're playing some crazy stuff.
Mm-hmm. I actually really like Villa here. I think this is not a great matchup for Manchester United, because if you go back to that previous meeting, what happened was Villa went up early off of 2 set-piece goals, and then they just kept playing a high line, and they allowed Manchester United the one thing that they're kind of good at, is getting runners in behind with Rashford and Garnacho, and they punished Villa over and over again, and they came back and they won 3-2. What was encouraging about Aston Villa when they played an FA Cup match against Chelsea is, the book's kind of out on Chelsea as well. Like, if you play a high line against them, they will get in behind you and they will cause problems. And Chelsea destroyed Aston Villa in the FA Cup today on Wednesday. But they played a low block against them in the first meeting, and it kind of stifled Chelsea. And they didn't really have many avenues to get into the box and create a lot of big scoring chances. Really, the only big chances that Chelsea had in that match were off of mistakes and build-up from Aston Villa. And that's something that's been happening a lot recently with Villa. And I think it kind of boils down to the fact that Pau Torres has been out for 6-7 matches now. He was on the bench against Chelsea. He's coming back, hopefully starting for this match, which is massive for Aston Villa and their build-up, going up against a Manchester United team that, let's just say, is flawed out of possession. Like, quite frankly, at this point in the season, they don't have a pressing structure that works, especially against Wolves. They kept trying to press with all of their attackers, but none of the midfielders or fullbacks were coming up to aid and help in the press. So Wolves just had one outlet ball, and there you go. Transition attack, Neto's running at you, and then they obviously caused a lot of problems. United's going to be without Lisandro Martinez. He came back for 2 matches, and they look great in build-up, and he makes such a big difference for them. Well, now he's out. He's going to be out till March, I believe, or late March. And without him, it's kind of going to go back to the same thing with Manchester United, where if they try to build up, it's probably not going to be that great. Manu and Casemiro as a double pivot is fine. Like, it's not great, but I mean, it's not like, elite, but it's perfectly fine. Casemiro's clearly lost a step though, but Manu's been fantastic. But I just don't see it. I think Villa's going to be able to build out of this pretty easily through Manchester United's press. And, United, once you beat that first line of the press, like I said, like, they don't really have much to stop you going forward. I mean, they're allowing over 1.5 non-penalty XG per 90 this season. And it kind of goes also back to the fact that, the famous stat of United not being able to be very good against, elite opponents away from home. I think they've taken 1 point in however long it's been. So I have Villa projected at -123. They're at home. They've been almost unbeatable there. They have a +10.8 expected goal differential. I like the value on them at +110.
I don't have an answer for this Villa team. I really don't. I mean, I think BJ made a good point about Torres being out. That hurts. Kamara was terrible today. I thought he kind of cost them big time. Constant's now down for the rest of the year, it looks like. There's just all kinds of red flags with Villa. It feels like they're getting no market respect, though. Like you said, BJ, like, I can't bet United at this number at all, given the underlying numbers. The underlying numbers are saying that these two teams are about even the rest of the season. If you had to bet who would get more points, BJ, rest of the year, Villa or United, who would you take?
Villa.
I think I would
Easy
too. And I don't even like Villa that much. So that's
the
the
either.
thing. The price. You're not getting a great price on United because the market thinks Villa's a total fraud and almost undervaluing them. We had this discussion a couple weeks ago, but they did, lose to Newcastle 3-0. They lose to Chelsea in the Cup 3-1. They did do some rotating. No Digne, he's down as well. So like they're pushing the limit of what we can really get out of them. But I just can't get over how overrated I think this Villa defense is, and I think they're apt to leak more goals. I think that's probably where this leads to. I could see this being very back and forth because I think both defenses really stink. And I don't think it's all that different from the first meeting. I mean, Villa's set-piece defense is a problem. United's set-piece defense is a major problem. So, like, set pieces are going to be big. I know BJ did some stuff on corners.
United worst least efficient team on corners this season.
Yeah, they've been a disaster on set pieces too. So
Yeah,
Villa, like that's been one of their biggest weaknesses defensively, but their other biggest weakness is like, okay, there's gonna be a ton of spacing behind, and I think that's gonna be still the same thing for this. Like Fernandez is gonna be on the pitch. He's going to be able to ping balls to Garnacho and Rashford. Rashford, very streaky player. He's found form and he's been very good the last month out of kind of nothing. His traditional run that he seems to go on this time every year, and he's scoring goals and contributing. So I want to bet Villa, but I also don't. So I'm probably going to pass here, but certainly like it's Villa or nothing for me at the current number. I don't have enough market respect for United, who played probably their best half of the season against Wolves and then followed up with just a complete inability to hold the lead. And then the West Ham game, like West Ham missed a sitter to tie it. United comes down on the counter, goes up 2-0, and it's like, oh, okay, sure. But like they didn't actually play all that well outside of like a couple of deflections that went their way. Like the total underlying metrics were clearly West Ham's game. So I'm not going to upgrade them off of a 50-50 game against an overrated West Ham.
Second time that United has beaten a Premier League team by more than one goal.
Yes,
this season.
Second time they were outplayed in the game as well.
Very
similar games. If we're being
the other time, right?
Oh, of course I know the other time.
Yeah. All right. Fulham and Bournemouth up next. Cottagers plus 137 here at home. Bournemouth traveling plus 180, and the draw here is plus 250. We're kind of getting back to I guess like you could stamp this match if you have been listening to us live late. Like I feel like it's not that we think Fulham stink, but they're not that good, right? And I think we would put Bournemouth ahead of them at this point. Raul Jimenez he's been all right though.
Oh, he's out now.
Yeah, now he's hurt. Yeah. So who scores now? I don't know. I think there's way too many paths to a Bournemouth upset on the road here to not take a shot on plus 180.
Something very interesting is happening with Fulham, though, BJ.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Their defense is kind of good now.
Is it?
Do I believe it? Not really. But here's something fun. So I was kind of thinking about the league, and I was like, okay, we know there's 3 really good teams, like a clear gap between the top 3 and everybody else. And then every team between like 4 to 8 to 9 doesn't play any defense. That's just the new prem. That's why there's been so many goals. Like Spurs don't play defense. Brighton don't play defense. Newcastle doesn't play defense. United can't defend. Villa, like we've talked about them enough. Like they're probably the best defense of them all, and like they're not that good either. Chelsea had a brief run where they played defense, but now they don't. So I have some numbers here. Since I took out penalties, since November 27th, so since December, right around like the festive fixture starting, the top 5 defensive teams in the Premier League by expected goals allowed. Liverpool, Arsenal, City are the 3 obvious ones. Who do you think the other 2 teams are?
By Since when? Allowed? Since when?
Since November 27th. It's about
Since November 27th.
About 10 matches, so about half the season.
Well, I'm guessing Fulham's going to be one of them.
Brentford. I feel like Brentford's been decent.
Nope, not Brentford.
Too. Not Everton.
Not Everton. Everton was 6th or 7th.
Yeah, I was gonna say, just please don't tell me any more good stuff about Everton.
The answer is Bournemouth. So these have been 2 of the 5 best defensive teams, and it's not even that fluky. I mean, it's like 1.1 for Fulham and 1.08 for Bournemouth, and it's not like schedules either. I looked at the schedules. Fulham have played Liverpool and Arsenal since then. Bournemouth have played Liverpool and Spurs. So like they've played real games, and their defenses have held up. Now, I said the same thing last week where I was like, Fulham's attack is kind of a mess. They get Broja on loan now, so like maybe, but like I don't know. They have this weird thing with Broja where he's incentivized to play, and Fulham have to pay more for the loan if he doesn't play, which is like a really fascinating thing. Like it's like they have to play him to get him minutes, and if he doesn't play, they owe Chelsea more money. It's like the inverse of how it usually works, but. Yeah, I mean, these 2 defenses are trending up. I don't know what to do with it because the Fulham defense has always been the same. It's like, oh, like Paulina's good, Pereira's pretty good, like the forwards press, and then they would just give up a bunch of big chances out of nothing. But now they're not. Like they've kind of cut those down, I know now that I'm saying this, they'll probably fall off again. But like of
I
all
mean,
the teams whose defenses have just taken a complete shit in the last 3 months of soccer, Fulham has been one of the few that hasn't. And they have
even the last two games though, they haven't been
What's
great.
that?
I feel like the last two games they haven't been all that sound
Yeah,
defensively. I know that they held Everton.
They choked against Burnley for sure.
And they held
Yeah.
Everton to a clean sheet, so it sounds bad, but Everton should. I mean, that was the second time that Everton.
Goals.
Yeah,
Right.
so
yeah.
I don't know.
So
Maybe.
that brings me to my point, which is that I am very tempted by the under.
Oh gosh,
Great.
I'm so tired of it. I don't want to do it anymore. It's just not fun.
Just tired of
the games are never safe. Like it got bad because I had an under 2.5 and there was one goal after like 75 minutes. This was Germany, so not quite the same. And I'm sitting there like just thinking like I know this game's going over. Like it's just going to go over. It's going to go over. It's going to go over. I checked the live odds. I'm like minus 1,200. I'm like, should I hedge like 8-1 over 2.5? It's just, I mean, I can't. I mean, it's insane. Eight overs last week in the Prem, and then that Arsenal game, man, that broke me spiritually. So I think the total's too high. I do, but I don't really want to bet the under. So that's where I'm at now. If you have the stomach for it, join me. 2.5. It's creeping to 3. Like if it got to a flat 3, that's just ridiculous. I'm sorry. These two teams, the way they've been defending the last month, 2 months, too high.
Yeah, I like Bournemouth here. I think it feels kind of obvious, right? Because I don't really think that Fulham should be really a home favorite. And you mentioned the Fulham offense. Well, here's some stats to back it up, Anthony, on how kind of poor they've been. Only averaging 1.13 non-penalty XG per 90 so far this season. Second fewest penalty box touches of anybody in the Premier League. Worst final third box entry conversion rate in the Premier League. And in their last 6 matches, they have not created a big scoring chance. So there you go. It's been really bad offensively. So does Broja change that? I don't think so, at least not right now. Maybe when he gets more minutes and his feet under him and whatever system they want to play with him, it could happen. But, Bournemouth really destroyed Fulham in the previous meeting. If you remember.
Long ago, right? Right.
It really
was right around
Christmas,
Christmas, right?
It was, yeah. 3-0. Fulham did not register a shot with an XG rating over 0.1. And Bournemouth, I mean, the hybrid press under ERO has been awesome. It's been clicking on all cylinders. So November 11th, when they beat Newcastle, was probably the first time that we could say, holy crap, like Bournemouth, they actually looked really good. Since that point, third best passes per defensive action in the Premier League behind only Liverpool and Arsenal. So that's how good their press has been. They're really, I mean, that's honestly how they're creating most of their chances. It's just like they win the ball high, they do one pass to Solanke and just puts it home. He's been in a great finishing run. And most non-penalty goals this season, Dominic Solanke. So this Bournemouth attack is pretty good when they can force these high turnovers. And Fulham, they have tried at times to play out of the back, and it's been a disaster. So and I have this match projected like pretty much literally as a dead pick 'em. So Bournemouth draw no bet plus 110 is good enough for me.
And remember, you talked about the last fixture because I almost bet I liked Bournemouth, and I don't really play favorites and unders because it's just too much. Like one bounce and you lose both and whatever. But I should value on that under too. It was 2.5. I remember the game, and it was like 0-0. Nothing happened for a half hour. Bournemouth got one right before half on a great run by Scott to Kluivert. 1-0. I'm like, okay. And I was looking at the live under because I was like, this game's going to shut down. Then they gave away a really stupid pen, and then Sinistera hit a stoppage time banger, and there was like 2 total XG, including the pen, and it still went over. Like that's just how the season is this year, and it's very frustrating. But I mean, I think this total is too high. There's a plus 115 out there on the under 2.5, and it's like just staring at me.
Okay. Tough one for Anthony over the weekend. He loses the podcast derby to BJ.
It's true.
Arsenal runs rampant over Liverpool. Liverpool looking to bounce back. They're a huge favorite at Anfield. Burnley traveling at 14-1. The draw here is 7-1. It feels like a situation where Liverpool can name the score, right? It just feels that way. But the scary thing there is that you're going to be paying for that, right? Like that's going to be juiced in. But do you just keep it simple, stupid here, Anthony?
I mean, is there a less interesting team than Burnley to talk about week to week?
Yeah, no,
maybe
I don't.
maybe Sheffield.
You know
I
what's
don't know.
funny is like we had a great hook on them coming into the year. Like, is this
Yeah.
kind of high risk, high reward style going to translate well? It was very clear that it didn't.
We haven't bet
And
against them enough.
yeah, and we just
Yeah.
should
we
be
did.
laying
I did
everything
nail
against
them
them.
against Fulham. In what when they were like 4-1 against Fulham, and
Yes.
I think those are the only times you can even consider them when they're playing pretty mediocre pedestrian side and they're getting a huge number, because otherwise you're asking just way too much out of a team that tell me how they win this game. Like, tell me how they even keep this thing competitive without just conjuring up a goalkeeper standing on his head, a penalty, red cards, and
There's no
yeah,
case.
it's black magic or nothing here, and the number's not high
City
enough to
closed
bet.
-2.5, -110 at home against Burnley, and they should have covered it, really. And
they slept. They fell asleep at the end.
yeah, and then now it's like 2.25. I don't know, man. Like, if you want to bet Burnley, have fun. I'm just not going to do it. I'm not going to bet Liverpool either. I'm certainly not laying 2.5. But if you like Liverpool, chase the number maybe.
Yeah,
I think
be pissed off. Klopp.
It looks like Nunez. I mean, is Nunez going to start?
It looks like he will.
Yeah.
They have a week off. They have next week off. Like, there's no.
If you want like to squeeze like a little more value out of like a Super Bowl prop or something, you can play like Liverpool -1.5 parlayed with something. I don't
see the path.
Yeah,
I think it gets soccer. Liverpool's probably due for a game where they outplay somebody badly and don't get all the points. They've only had it really happen once all year. Luton game, but I was away from home. This is like, I don't know. It's Anfield. I don't do bets against Liverpool at Anfield.
That's true. I am showing a little bit of value on the under.
Nice. There you go.
As we were recording, I just looked it up because I was just curious of what the actual goals to XG overall in the Premier League has been this season. And it's actually pretty close. 703 goals off of 696 expected.
Yeah, it's not like the whole league is running hot. It's just the whole league is now just the Bundesliga.
Yep, exactly. But yeah, only projecting 3.2 goals, so under 3.5 even money. Technically would have value, but good luck. I'm not doing that.
BJ, do you know who the most profitable team to the under is? We talked about this last week. I don't think I mentioned the totals, but there's a most profitable under team in the Prem, according to our Action Labs database, despite their game going over last week.
Is it Liverpool?
It is Liverpool. Yep. Liverpool's most profitable under team, and the most profitable over team. I'll give you one guess, and you should get it if you know me.
Is it Tottenham?
No. You get a second guess now because you should think about it. My favorite bit.
Wolves.
The whole pod.
Wolves.
Oh, Wolves overs. Most profitable team in the Prem to the over this year.
One year early on Wolves overs.
Yeah,
and then we never profit. This is what we do. We come in a year early and then we never profit off anything.
Yeah. Just listen to the podcast 1 year backdated. So you want to be listening to this in 2025 when we're talking about Everton top 6 and whatever in the championship.
Oh gosh, that's gonna.
I'm putting it out there now. Leicester. Yeah. Next year we're buying Leicester.
Yeah, the Everton Man City race in the championship next season is going to be electric.
Yeah, exactly.
Forest has no chance in that.
Honestly,
race.
I think this is the match of the weekend in terms of a betting perspective, and the stakes are quite high too. If you want to give Sheffield United enough credit that the season isn't over, but I don't think. Yeah. But look, if they're going to do anything, it's going to have to be in this one. And I think the number is just way too high in Luton Town. And I know they're at home and they're this gutsy, gritty team. They're fun to watch because they just leave it all out there. Their ball's just bouncing around the 18-yard box all game, both 18-yard box. The crowd is great. That fun story. We love it. Sheffield United is brutal. -40 goal differential. But a -25 expected goal differential on the season. You look at their last 10 matches, 1 win out of 10. Not very good last time I checked, but it shouldn't be this bad. It just should not be this bad. 25 goals against on 19 expected, and a whopping 8 scored on just around 13 expected goals for. Luton Town the other direction. They've scored 20 on right around 14, and have conceded 19 over their last 9 games over in that span. So this is since December 1st. I'm not like, I get that Sheffield United has proven themselves to be worse than Luton Town, and I think that there are some motivational angles you can look at here to make a case for Luton as well. Like, I think you can say Sheffield might be just on the beach already, knowing the season's over, and Luton Town is scrapping for every second of every game. This number's too high, BJ. This number is just too high.
I agree. It is high. I only have Luton at like minus 120. So you can make obviously a case here for Sheffield. They've been much more aggressive under Chris Wilder and trying to play more attacking football instead of just sitting in a low block and playing transitionally. But the problem with doing that is they're the worst defensive team in the Premier League. And Villa, it was so simple against them. It was basically just like 1 or 2 passes and then boom, like it was ball onto Watkins, goal. And they did it again and again and again and again. Ended up winning 5-0. I don't know how I'm not playing both teams to score here, honestly. Sheffield United, the biggest thing with Luton, why have they gotten to this point, or why do they even have like a shot to get out of the relegation zone? It's because they are an elite team on corners and getting on the end of crosses. They do this thing they call a back post overload, where they just stick 3-4 guys on the back post against, usually it's the opposing team's fullback, a smaller guy, and they just throw alley-oops up there all match long and try and put it in. They did it against Newcastle. They've done it. They did it twice to Brighton. And Sheffield United has a very shaky goalkeeper who was going to go out on loan because they thought they were going to get a different goalkeeper in. And turns out that didn't work out. So he's standing there in net knowing that they were trying to replace him. And he's been very bad at defending these corners. And Sheffield United has allowed the most expected goals off of corners this season. So that's a terrible matchup for Luton Town. But Luton Town, I mean, they're bad in transition. You saw that against Newcastle, just how badly and how much you can rip them apart. And with Sheffield United playing, more on the front foot, trying to get going forward, because like you said, Michael, like it's probably over, but they're going for it. Like they're not just going to sit back in their low block and just get beat every single match.
Reminds me a little bit of when Deitch took over Everton. Like they
exactly.
Just,
and guess what? They should have absolutely beaten Luton Town in the previous meeting. Like they dominated them, and Luton Town luck boxed their way to a 3-2 win. But that was the highest XG output that they, from a non-penalty perspective, that Sheffield United has had this season. So both teams have scored sitting around minus 140. I'm projecting it a little bit north of minus 150. So I'll probably be on both teams to score. Like I don't really see a scenario. I really feel like this is going to be very back and forth. And especially once that first goal goes in, I mean, this match more than anything is probably pretty game state dependent. It's going to create a very back and forth match. So I do love both teams to score at minus 140.
Yeah, so I talked about the top 5 defenses since December started. All right, bottom 5 defenses since December started. You want to try to guess who the worst is? Newcastle. That's pretty obvious. You want to guess who the second worst is?
Manchester City.
It's Luton Town. And you've probably heard, the discussions are starting. Can they stay up? They might actually stay up. Everton and Forest better be in trouble. Palace is in trouble. Since
I like these conversations.
Last 800-ish minutes, no pens, no reds included. Sheffield are giving up 1.6 XG per 90, right next to Tottenham and United. More on them later. Luton are giving up 2.1, so almost a half goal more. And they're way worse defensively since Wilder took over. Luton is way worse defensively since Wilder took over than Sheffield. And I think you're at the top of the market here on Luton. The line look ahead was plus 115. Now it's minus 130. There was a huge swing. Like, I don't really agree with it. So I'm going to take a shot here.
Yeah, it just makes it makes sense
later.
It makes sense on the surface, right? You look at the last 3 for Sheffield United, shipped 5 to Brighton in the FA Cup, shipped 3 to Palace, and then got drubbed by Villa 5-0. But I don't know. This is they've got a couple winnable games coming up. I think you can, if you want to throw Brighton in there, but it's like Luton Town, Wolves. This is I think it won't be enough to keep them up, but I think this is the bounce back here spot. And I think this number. You know what? One more thing I want to say before passing it back to you, BJ, is that I said this about the Liverpool line. I said that like if you want to take Liverpool -1.5 and throw it on a Super Bowl prop to juice up the price, and because like the logical thinking there is you want to take a first leg that you think has a pretty good chance of winning. But honestly, if you want to build yourself something that will give you a great sweat, I don't think it's a bad idea to take this price where it's a plus 375 and then parlay it with your favorite Super Bowl bet to really juice it up. Because this line this could be maybe my favorite money line of the season here.
I agree, and I honestly money line and over. If you want to chase over 3.5, maybe even over 4.5, I don't think that's a bad play at all. Because, like I said, like even in the previous meeting, it was incredibly back and forth. Where it's just like somebody scored, and then like the other team panics, like we're behind, we got to go for it. And both these teams, especially when they are ahead. Like, yeah, they're okay defending in a low block and everything like that. But as soon as they go behind, it's like, oh my gosh, what are we going to do? And then all chaos. Because like Aston Villa wasn't really doing anything up until when they scored. And then they scored, and then Sheffield's like, oh crap, like we got to start pressing them. And they pushed everybody forward to try to high press them. And it was just two like simple balls, Luiz to Watkins, and then it's like goal. And then it just happens again and again and again. So the snowball effect has big time effects here in this match. So yeah, maybe a Sheffield. Let's see if we can build a like Sheffield United money line over 3.5, and one more thing to see if we can.
Well, I'm just like I said,
really
your favorite Super Bowl bet. Toss it up there. You could be the person at the party that says, "Oh yeah, like I'm holding 100 to 1 on
exactly
on Priest Holmes to win Super Bowl MVP because I bet I legged it with the Sheffield United
2007.
Yeah. Yes, Priest Holmes, Romeo Crennel. Spurs, Anthony Spurs, your boys come out of a match with Everton with a draw, or Richarlison 2-2. Someone in the group chat was talking about how that was the easiest bet on the board, and I'm really pissed I didn't think about that.
2+ 10 to 1.
So shout out to the big sub for that one. -120 on Spurs here at home against Brighton, coming in at plus 280, and the draw's plus 320, and this one also seems too high on the home team. Little scary here. I don't want to lay it with Spurs against a team like Brighton. Like I get that Brighton has flaws, and maybe the Zerbi ball has been found out a bit over the course of the season, but I mean, give them any sort of kind of frenetic pace, which is what Spurs are going to want to do, and it awakens in them, I feel like. So, and coming off a good performance as well. So I like Brighton here, plus 280. I think it's a good price on the road at Tottenham. What do you think?
Stylistically, you can't make the total high enough.
Yeah,
right?
That's true.
I mean, Ange and De Zerbi, like we're not going to get to many of those. Did we not just alt overs?
So you just 0-0?
I mean, no. Alto. There's just, I mean, the last game ended what? 3-2?
Yes.
4-2? 4-2. 4-2. And it could have been more. There was 2 penalties. Like it was chaos. Neither team really looked like defending from the first minute. It was just like whoever has the ball is going to get the ball into the penalty area, and then hopefully they don't score when they shoot. I kind of want to just bet against whoever takes the lead live, right? It's like a great live betting game. You could live trade this. You could alt over 4.5, 5.5. Doesn't mean it's going to happen, obviously, but like just the way these managers want to play, like would either manager be unhappy with a 3-3 draw after 90 minutes? If they had a great day,
no, because and then they talk about it, and it'd be great to hear them talk.
We had to go, and
and so would De Zerbi, and then he would be asked if he's going to coach Barcelona, and then it'd be a lot of fun.
I just don't really have a ton to go with here. I mean, Spurs have been a bottom 5 defense in the last 2 months. I talked about it. It didn't really look that much better against Everton. Van de Ven is a huge addition. He didn't play in the last meeting, so yes, that's like probably the biggest difference. But the midfield is still easily overplayed through. And for Tottenham, they're going to take a ton of chances to press. I mean, it's essentially like it's a Bundesliga match here. Now the total's 3.5.
Nil pays out 22-1. Usually we get like 7-1.
I would need like 30, 40.
Yeah, but still, it just tells you like it's
a Son. His status is up in the air. I can't imagine he's playing, just because they just played in the Asian Cup. But I just think overs and fading the team live, whoever scores first, is a good bet here. And of course, I lean toward Brighton as well. Don't really have a huge gap between these two teams right now.
Yep. Anything, BJ, or should we move on to Wolves and Bees?
I'll just say this about Brighton. Thomas Frank had a nice quote about Brighton that I thought would kind of hit the nail on the head. Basically said, when you play them, you either have to give them what they want, which is press them high and try and force turnovers, or you have to sit in a low defensive block, or they will punish you. And Crystal Palace got caught in between for the entire match, and Brighton ripped them apart. Tottenham is going to go for it. They forced 17 high turnovers in the previous meeting. Obviously, a lot of those came when Brighton was already up a bunch of goals, but still, it kind of highlights Anthony's point that this is going to be very back and forth. So I agree with Anthony that if I was going to play anything, I would play an over. I don't trust Brighton in this spot. I am showing a little value on them, quite frankly, but I think Tottenham is a lot better with Van de Ven back there defensively. So if anything, it would just be a live over, or excuse me, an alt over.
Okay, Wolves and Brentford. Wolverhampton plus 110 at home. Brentford plus 240. The draw is plus 260. The 0-0 for this one plays at 11-1. That's just the point I was making is usually it's in the 9 to 11-1 range, and for Spurs and Brighton it's 22-1. Maybe 0-0 for like the first 15 minutes should pay out like 10-1 in that one. Another one. I think that the number's too high on the home team. We can get into it. We love Wolves. We like Wolves when they're punching up as an underdog. We like this Gary O'Neill character. It's been a great fit. Not too much you can poke holes in with this team. They're bang average. They're sitting in 10th place. But this is, considering the underlying portfolio that Brentford owns, like there's very little between them. Like I think like these two teams. I wouldn't argue with anyone who would say that they kind of like Brentford more than Wolverhampton at all. I just think that the ceiling is higher for the Bees. Great spot for them as a road dog at a decent number, BJ. So it's a set it and forget it kind of play here once again with Brentford.
Yeah, I agree. So this is now the fourth meeting between these two teams in a very short amount of time. The first meeting was just rife with calamitous defending from Brentford. Terrible back passes, not defending crosses. Like it was just basically everything that possibly could have gone wrong did go wrong. And they still only allowed 2.4 expected goals. And that was with a tap in from Hwang that had a XG rating of 0.99. So in total, outside of one just terrible back pass, they didn't really allow a lot considering they allowed 4 goals in that match. Then they played in the FA Cup twice. There was the first match ended 1-1. Brentford went up a man, Wolves went down a man early. Brentford scored and then allowed one late. And then in the replay, Wolves won in extra time. But again, if you take away Cunha's penalty in extra time, expected goals was basically even. So it kind of highlights your point, Michael, that these two teams have played now 3 times and have played very, very evenly when they're both playing 11 on 11. And something I found interesting from Brentford is the first meeting against Wolves. Brentford, obviously, when they are in a situation where they believe they're the favorites or they're going to hold a lot of possession, they switch to a 4-3-3. They did that against Wolves, and they kind of got caught out a couple times. In the 2 matches against them in the FA Cup, they switched back to their normal 3-5-2, and they basically handed Wolves the ball and said, all right, you're the ones that are going to have to break us down. And especially in that second meeting, Wolves held a majority of the possession, and they really weren't that effective. I mean, 1.2 non-penalty goals off of 24 shots, like that's not efficient at all. And it kind of highlights something that Wolves profiles really well as a team against one of the big boys. Their ability to play in transition with Neto causes a lot of the big boys problems. You saw that against Chelsea. But when they against bottom half the table teams this season, they have a minus 1.5 expected goal differential, which kind of highlights that maybe they're not as good when they're the ones controlling the majority of the possession. So I agree. I think these two teams are dead on even. And I would have Brentford favored on a neutral field. So I don't see a scenario why Wolves should be this big of a favorite. So I like Brentford plus a half at -125. And obviously Ivan Toney makes Brentford just so much better comparatively to the other 3 meetings when they didn't have him.
I pretty much agree entirely with BJ. I don't have a ton else to add. I lean with Brentford as well. I lean with the over. I think the market's still short on the attacking quality. And Wolves overs. I mean, why not, right?
Yep. Wolves overs. 1 year late. Okay, so that ends a run of games we had plenty of conviction on. Sheffield United, the Brighton Spurs basketball match. Brentford. Now we get into kind of the dregs of the board, I would say. You guys like the total in Newcastle Forest. Anthony, you both are looking at the same side.
Close 3 on Boxing Day. I bet the under. Lost. Now it's 2.5. You can still find a -125 out there. -130 is fine. I've downgraded both of these defenses since then. Upgraded both attacks since then. Like Newcastle's got Barnes back in the fold. He scores against Luton. I mean, they're just playing styles that just suggest this total shouldn't be 2.5. And I know that it's Newcastle on the road and whatever, but there's going to be opportunities on the break for Forest. Iwani in the lineup, Reina coming off the bench, Wood off the bench now, I think. There's just a lot more attacking depth at Forest. And they have a new goalie, so maybe that helps their shot-stopping numbers, but we'll see if this kid's any good. Sells.
From Strasbourg?
Don't have a ton on him, but don't really think he's going to set the world on fire.
If Courtois is not healthy, he might be in net for Belgium at the Euros. I'm just going to say that. Just letting everybody know out there.
Is Castile not Belgian? Colin Castile?
In terms of depth charts, I saw that he was ahead of him.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. Might be Dutch.
But anyway, I think something interesting is happening with Newcastle. Or I wasn't on the last podcast, but Newcastle switched their pressing structure against Aston Villa, and it caught them by surprise. They started going uber aggressive. They went man-to-man across the back line, marking all of their attackers, and it worked. And they caused a lot of problems for Villa. But then they went and played Luton Town, and when you play that aggressively with a back line that is generally slow, right, with Shaw and Byrne back there and Trippier, Luton Town just used their pace to get in behind time and time again. And that is something that Nottingham Forest can do here as well. Nottingham Forest has been more willing to play out of the back. So it kind of highlights the analysis I had for Aston Villa and Newcastle when they played. It was just like, all right, well, one of two things is going to happen. Either Nottingham Forest is going to be able to play through them and create a good transition opportunity, or they're going to turn the ball over and it's going to create a good opportunity for Newcastle. So either way, I like the over.
Okay. That is a Saturday, 12:30 kickoff. Sunday, we have a 9 a.m. tilt between Arsenal and West Ham. All three of us are passing. West Ham is 5-1 at home.
Do you believe, Anthony?
We're gonna have a discussion about Arsenal on the Champions League pod, and
do you believe
that I have that may surprise some people?
Not too much that we need to get into there. We'll, like Anthony said, we'll save some thoughts on Arsenal for Monday morning's pod. Palace and Chelsea, that's the Monday Night Football kickoff. It's going to be interesting to see how many people are kind of just like interested in betting it because it's the day after the NFL season wraps up with the Chiefs and 49ers.
Man.
On Sunday,
I love over 2.5.
I mean, I would take Chelsea. I would take Chelsea Palace at Sellers Park over any NFL product put out there these days.
No Elise and no Eze for an extended period of time for Crystal Palace is
again. It's just
sell.
how it goes. It's just how it goes with these guys. Poor Roy can't catch a break. All the breaks go to Jurgen.
That's true.
He's the anti-Jurgen.
I mean, I bet the over 2.5 at -105. It got bet up. And now it's at a point where I wouldn't play it, especially without those guys. So I'm just not going to bet this game, I don't think. We'll see if the market comes back down. I'd still like an over if you can find a cheap 2.5. Just because Chelsea gets Jackson back today, and they just look like a different team with him. They're averaging over 2 XG per match in the Prem this year when he's on the pitch. They're at like 1.3 when he's off the pitch. Unsurprisingly, his XG per 90 is like 0.67. So the difference, but they're literally getting nothing from anybody else when he's not there. So Jackson is good, it turns out. Very good. And we're going to, I think, see the best version of the Chelsea attack for this game. Gusto as well as a fullback. Like, this is probably their best offensive team, and they're still flawed defensively. So Over 2.5 is probably still good, but again, at the current number with those guys out, I can't play it.
Okay. That's the Premier League. Let's quickly run through the rest of Europe. We'll go to the Bundesliga, where Anthony was all over Borussia Mönchengladbach last week against Bayern.
I
was
heard he didn't put it in the underdog parlay. An absolute disgrace.
I know.
They didn't win.
Absolute
It
doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter at all. Yeah.
Molly came very close to winning.
It's not about winning or losing. It's about sticking to your guns.
Well, I'll tell you what. I somebody tweeted me before the match and said, "Did you bet? Should I bet Gladbach first half Bayern to win 18-1?" I was like, "Yes." And then it was like the 45th minute, Gladbach's up 1-0. I'm like, I can't believe I didn't bet this myself. And then they didn't win. They gave up a goal in stoppage time of half. So, first half money line loses for the first time in a while. But first half team total gets in. The spread was really never in doubt until they had a point blank header in the 88th minute to go 4-1. And they didn't hit it, thankfully. But yeah, Gladbach covers again. Congrats to Bayern on their amazing upset victory over Gladbach. And I will continue to bet Gladbach. We'll see you again next season for the rematch as we continue to run it back with these inflated numbers. Beautiful. I like Hoffenheim this weekend at home against Cologne. The market keeps banking in this like Cologne's going to somehow turn a corner. I don't agree. The team looks shot. They had a good win at home against Frankfurt, but like they got a red card in that. Frankfurt's pretty overrated themselves. Now they go on the road after a big win, and I think Hoffenheim's cheap. Like the market's saying Hoffenheim's barely better. I disagree. And then we've got the game of the weekend, BJ. Bayern at Leverkusen. Should be a fun one.
It'll
Bayern's
be a great
pick 'em. -110. A line you never see in this league with a Bayern.
Ever. And I love them. And I love them in this match too. So here's the thing with Leverkusen. Obviously they've drastically overperformed to get to this point. They've outran their expected goals by about 14, 38 actual goal differential, 24 expected goal differential, while Bayern is basically right on them with actual, but they're like expected metrics are exactly what their actual ones are. So there's a pretty significant gap in terms of underlying metrics. But the biggest thing, so Leverkusen played Stuttgart in the German Cup on Wednesday. And Stuttgart was able to exploit a couple weaknesses that Leverkusen has. It's that, so Leverkusen, when you see all these like beautiful clips on Twitter of like Xabi Alonso ball where they're just playing quick passes like through everybody, well, those are largely coming against teams like Mainz and Bochum and everything, teams that aren't very good at pressing. Stuttgart did a great job of high pressing them, forced a lot of high turnovers. In fact, scored one of their goals off a high turnover. Bayern is the best pressing team that Leverkusen is going to see all season, and they're going to cause problems for them. And another huge weakness that Leverkusen has is they are the worst team in the Bundesliga on set pieces. Bayern has scored the most goals and has created the most expected goals off of set pieces this season. So they're going to have a big advantage there. Number one in aerial duel win percentage as well. So I don't really see a reason why this should be a pick. I have Bayern at +108. I think they should be a favorite here. So I love Bayern in the spot.
I am tempted by the under for what it's worth. I think these two teams play kind of similarly.
In the Bayern game?
Yeah, I am a little bit tempted by it.
Is it still 3.5?
3.5, and there's so much talent on the field that it's kind of scary. But I think the way this matchup profiles, it could be like a sneaky, maybe first half under, because it could open up a lot if one team falls behind. They have to press a lot, but I think this is going to be very cagey early, where both teams don't want to really lose it. And Leverkusen doesn't press that much. They don't take a ton of chances out of possession when they don't have it. And Bayern, they're very effective when they do press, but even the Tuchel team, they're not pressing at the same level of the Flick or Nagelsmann teams did. The pressing isn't quite as good or as consistent. So I don't really want to do it though. But yeah, under 1.5 is a interesting thing for me in the first half. But I agree. I lean toward Bayern as well. Betting Bayern, so much more fun than betting against them.
It is.
Yeah. I wonder if you took the big 5 leagues and you calculated across all competitions, and you did a percentage of times we've picked against them. I think Bayern would probably or picked on them. I think Bayern would be at the lowest, if that makes sense, of our table. No, we bet United a bit. I mean, I do at least, but I think Bayern down there. Okay, La Liga up next. Something crazy going on at with the Atletico Madrid match. I'm not totally sure. I just try to keep one eye on it. But
They're out of Copa del Rey.
it looks like they just got bounced. They had
No,
a penalty.
two legs, BJ,
they had
two
a
legs.
penalty and it was
it's 2
taken
legs?
away.
Okay.
2 legs, BJ.
Yeah, but
Two
at the end
legs.
of the match, they had a penalty, but it got
Why
barred off.
Why do they do this? Once we get to a
video-
semifinal, why do they do 2 legs? It drives me nuts. Everybody does this.
So shout out to HU Capper because he tweeted it and kind of put me on Bilbao to win the Copa, 16-1, and so we're sweating that one out. And he's messaging me as we're having this.
Thanks
podcast
for sharing. Thanks for sharing.
I know I'm a loser. I think I tweeted it, but you don't follow me on Twitter anymore. So
Too much stuff about the Ringer. Let's do your favorite bet in La Liga, Anthony, rather than get into the rewatchables or whatever you're talking about these days.
Yeah, so Las Palmas and Valencia under 2. I project this under 1.7 goals. I'm curious where BJ has it.
1.75.
It's just the worst attack. 1.75. There you go. So we're both on this, I guess. Just two diabolical attacks.
I'll be on my favorite bet of all time in this match.
Both teams scored no.
Yeah, no.
What is it? Minus 195?
It's like -1. Here, let me look it up. You talk and I'll look it up.
All right. Well, I mean, I don't have a ton on this. I mean, it's just a really elite goalkeeper. Palmas plays a very high line. Valencia doesn't really have like the pace to exploit it. Tough travel spot for Valencia too. And so, yeah, give me the under 2.
-125. Both teams to score no. It's cheap.
Wow. Well, I guess it's a pick'em. So the market's expecting one. That is crazy cheap for a total of 2.
I have it projected at
maybe I'll do a half on each.
-192 is what I have both teams to score no projected at. So I will be betting that.
And you're also on the over 3.5.
Oh, we have another great match going on exactly the same time as Leverkusen and Bayern. Girona Real Madrid, which could be very big match for Barcelona futures if Girona can pull something off here. There is a trend that's been happening with Girona. Like I've obviously talked about them a lot and how aggressive they are. Like I think they're like the most aggressive team I've ever seen in possession, like trying to get like overloads and try to put pressure on the opposing defense. And they do a fantastic job of that. But when they play against the big boys, they have gotten torched repeatedly over and over and over again. And the matches have just been chaotic. 3 matches against Real Madrid, Barcelona, and Atletico. 16 goals, 14.7 expected goals. And it's because those 3 teams know how to exploit really, really bad transition defenses. So I'm expecting a lot of chaos here. Real Madrid has, improved defensively comparatively to years past, but man, I mean, just thinking about the way that Barcelona created like 8 big scoring chances against Girona, like what Bellingham, Rodrigo, and Vinicius Jr. are going to be able to do on the break against this team is crazy to think about. So over 3.5 plus 128 projected 3.7 goals.
Yeah, so we have a couple injury questions there. I haven't bet anything in that match. Dalbeck might be back, and Vinny's questionable now. So that's the only thing that's kind of concerning me. But
yeah, Vinny was on the bench
match,
against.
There's no way there's not goals.
Yeah, Vinny was on the bench against Atletico, so he might be back for this.
Yeah, one. They scratched him. That was the thing. He was supposed to start, and then he didn't. So that really wasn't great for our over. But yeah, so we'll see with Vinny. But if everybody's a full go, yeah, the total's low.
Okay.
3.5.
All right, Serie A. Let's go right to you, Anthony.
I'll do it in one sentence. Market's still not adjusting to Roma post Mourinho. Over 2.5 plus 130 against Inter. I think they're very clearly, if you just watch them playing differently, more expansive, more open. And Inter's happy to get into a back and forth battle with anybody. They have more talent than everybody, so why not? And I like the over there. And it's not a tough spot for them because the Champions League is not till the following week, so over.
We miss you. We miss you, Jose. BJ, anything for you in Serie A?
Frosinone +1 against Fiorentina. Just another fate of this Fiorentina team, which I think is completely flawed and overvalued offensively. So I think the number's way too high on them. So I like Frosinone.
Okay. Ligue 1, Anthony.
We're going back to the Lille against PSG train. Cash in the 94th last time. Just think PSG's, like, if you look at their underlying numbers, you expect some air in them. Not this much. They run very, very good to get to where they are. And Lille has underperformed their numbers. So classic, just, buy the undervalued team, sell the overrated team, and take Lille +1 on the road. Even money.
BJ?
Nice, plus 135. Kind of a low price for a really, really good defensive team. Nice is only allowing 0.76 non-penalty XG per 90 in Ligue on this season. Monaco's been in iffy form since the new year, so projected Nice at minus 107. So I like the value on them at plus 135.
All right, time for our favorite underdogs. BJ, you're going to a classic team that we are always featuring in this segment, it seems.
Yeah, I already talked about it. Brentford plus 250 on the road against Wolves, two teams that, quite frankly, have played each other very, very evenly in the other previous three meetings. So I don't really think there is a huge gap between these two. Not enough to suggest that Wolves should be essentially laying as an even money favorite at home. And I would have Brentford projected as a favorite if it was right in a neutral field. So I like the Bees plus 250.
And in the Chaos Bowl between Spurs and Brighton, I'll take the Seagulls at plus 280 on the road. I think that this game can go in a million different directions. That's always good news for an underdog, especially one that just had a pretty good performance against Tottenham not too long ago. So Brighton, another team that seems to feature in this part of the show quite a bit at plus 280. And Anthony, we can pass it over to you and just know that I co-sign it with my heart.
Sheffield plus 370. Yeah, we were discussing it pre-show, and really just at the top of the market on Luton, you're starting to hear that can they stay up conversations. They've conceded a ton of chances, relying a ton on set pieces to score goals, just like all of this voodoo. And like, great story, rooting for them. Kind of hope they do, but like, this is the top of the market, so give me Sheffield.
That parlay comes in at just about 62-1. Brighton, Brentford, and Sheffield United.
Molly lost.
I'll stick with myself here for best bets because you just talked about it. I like Sheffield United. I think it's one of my favorite money line plays of the entire season. It just looks way out of whack considering the difference between these two teams is closer to negligible than these odds. So give me the Blades on the road at Luton Town. BJ, your favorite bet in the Premier League.
Aston Villa plus 110 against Manchester United at Villa Park. Manchester United has gotten a couple good results, a win against Wolves and a win against West Ham, but they're still very, very flawed out of possession. And the fact that Erik ten Hag hasn't found a pressing structure that works for them. And, Aston Villa is a very good build-up team, and they're going to get their best center back and their best ball progressor and their best passer, Pau Torres, back, which is going to be massive for them in their build-up. They're at home, where they've been fantastic this season, plus 10.8 expected goal differential, while United has been very poor away from home. So I like Villa plus 110.
Everton team total over a half, minus 110 for me.
Beautiful.
I think City's playing an expansive style. They're committing more numbers forward. They're going to score goals in this match, but they will concede at least one. Give me the Toffees.
And one more thing,
all right,
before we get out of here, Michael.
Here we go.
Nigeria, AFCON final. Yeah, the number hasn't come out yet. Whatever it is, I like Nigeria against the Ivory Coast.
Good to any number. BJ, who gave out 11-1 on Nigeria pre-tournament, he should say, and also
no hedge.
No hedge. Hit
no
4
hedge.
out of 5.
No
hedge.
Having a great
I'm
tournament.
doubling down.
Well, and BJ, thank you for sharing that future bet with your friends. That's what you should be doing. Unlike
I tried, Michael. I don't know how many times I can.
Unlike
I don't
Tony,
know how many times I
yeah,
can
you
text
did.
You.
No, you did, Tony. But we got Tony Bilbao over there, just keeping that stuff to himself. So thank you. I know you gave it out on the podcast. You told me to parlay it with a bunch of AFL and cricket bets, and I appreciate that as always. If Tony could just learn a couple things from you, maybe.
That's right.
So we're gonna have a brand new crop of losing futures for the Champions League / Europa League.
Yeah, exactly. All right. With that, we'll say goodbye for now. We'll see you again on Monday morning to preview the Champions League. Good luck this weekend if you're betting the football. Good luck this weekend if you're betting the football. And we will hopefully have some winners in our pocket on the football.